Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Move with Love podcast. My name is April Miranda, your host, healer, and guide. And today we got two guests. Lucky us, we got Kaylin and Bronwyn, based in downtown Toronto. They started Theta Movement. So, Theta is based in Toronto and it was created to bring mindful movement, approachable spirituality, and heart centered community to those that live a busy urban lifestyle. It is a safe space. Theta is inclusive of all. Theta is home. It is a space of healing, of moving, of breathing and loving, a space free of judgment, self and outward, a place of vulnerability, a space of mind body connection to self, the earth, and community. Please welcome to the show, Bronwyn and Kaylin.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thanks for inviting us
Oh
here, April.
my gosh, I am so glad we connected in a little divine dance, whether it's through friends or through the community. But I stand behind what you stand for, and I'm really excited to have you share your magic with this community. So tell us a little about yourselves, whether about your individual and how you guys came together to create Theta.
Yeah.
Hmm. Brahman and I were working at Shout Out Bolo, which was a really awesome gym downtown that unfortunately didn't survive the pandemic. So that was a short-lived little stint where we crossed paths there. But it did bring us together, and we actually met each other in real life for the first time in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
We just so happened to, yeah, it was kind of a whim that I joined your Airbnb trip. I had nothing else going on. It was a pandemic, so I joined, and we clicked. We hit it off, and Bronwyn had just finished her yoga teacher training, and so we when we got home, we started. Yeah, once the summer hit, we started doing our park classes and doing yoga in the park, and that's kind of how we began.
Yeah. It was really nice.
Mm.
When Kayla and I first met, it was um not intentional at all. Like you said, we were in Costa Rica and there was a lot of moving parts. There was a lot of other trainers there as well. And I always say it's like our love story, our meet cute, is that we met in Costa Rica and we bonded over sharing same values towards movement, towards spirituality. We just seemed to be extremely aligned in all the things that we wanted to do with our lives as well. And we found this all out like while like floating in the waters. So like her and I are just like in the waters, like chatting about life. And it became instant friends, and we realized we lived a block away from each other. So when we came home, it was just from there. Yeah, we started yoga in the park, and then it got cold. So we sat down over coffee, and we're like, "What now? What do we do?" We The pandemic was sort of like wrapping up. Things were opening up again. And it was at that point where Kayla and I had to decide, are we going to go work for someone else again now? Is that what we're going to do? Neither of us were at a point in our lives where we necessarily wanted to really do that. We both have like strong work ethics. We both really wanted to be our own bosses. And we also wanted to find a space where we felt like they were completely aligned with our values and our approach to movement as well, which we weren't really finding. We weren't really seeing. There was nothing, not to say that there aren't beautiful, beautiful studios in the city, but the things that encompass all the different movement styles that Kayla and I both teach, and then incorporate with that with spirituality, with astrology, that wasn't anywhere. So if
Mm.
it's not there, you build it, right? And so that's
Yes.
exactly what we did.
Especially after the
Beautiful.
pandemic too. Yeah, lots of things were closing down. Like we were in love with Bolo. And then we're like, oh, now what?
Yeah.
We have to build it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how you created what didn't exist, or you created something that you were both craving, and how divine that you had the same intention, same purpose, same drive to make it happen. But I love the name Theta. But explain to me why you two chose that.
So theta was something I was living away in Bali, and that's where I did my yoga teacher certification. And we'll probably come back to that eventually because that was definitely a big moment in my life. But when I was in Bali, I had all these hopes and dreams about coming home and like creating this beautiful space, this studio. And then I came home to a pandemic where things like that were not necessarily doable or possible at that point in time, which left me like a little bit sad. But I went and found another job, which is where I found Caitlin at Bolo. So things happen for a reason. But it was this idea, theta, working off of the brainwaves. So we have all of our different brainwaves, alpha, theta, theta. Theta are the slower of the brainwaves, not the slowest, but the slower of them. And they're 4 to 8 hertz. And these brainwaves, if you look into them, the state of mind that we are in when we have these brainwaves flowing is a very introspective, very intuitive, very focused without honing in. It's almost like autopilot. But when we're in this state, we find ourselves being the most creative. We find ourselves doing the most mind body connection and the most healing. So if you can think about yourself in the States, for example, I always use this one. When you're in the shower and you have those wonderful creative ideas, those are theta brainwaves firing. And when you're out for a run and you're on autopilot and you're like, wow, my brain's just firing. I have so many great ideas, need to go home and write them down. Those are your theta brainwaves. So essentially what we wanted to do was create a space where we could give ourselves the permission and the space to tap into those brainwaves. And if we can slow down for a second, and if we can sit there in quiet contemplation and we can fire up these brainwaves and learn to do that like on our own and within our practices, with our community, then how cool. We can always be firing in this like ultra creative way. We can always be healing mind, body, and soul. So that's essentially what theta was, and that's what theta is, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
And I'll just add on to that too. The way that you can get into that autopilot is because you're in a safe environment. You're comfortable. You know where you are. You know that you're not at risk or in danger in any way. So that's our inspiration for creating the environment that we want to create and have created, we think, with this come as you are mentality and approach to all things, not just movement, but emotionally, physically, everything. Everyone that comes through the door, we want them to feel that they can be in this safe place so that those theta brainwaves can work, but also just so that you can relax and enjoy yourself. And yeah, that was a big driving factor for creating your space too.
Love that. I would love, you mentioned that you did your training in Bali. Like, I would love to hear about the origin story for both of you. What inspired you to do your yoga teacher training? Because I know for myself, like choosing to do my yoga teacher training was like one of the best things that I did for my life. So I want to hear from you, like point A, like your life before that and your life after. Because
Yeah,
I know personally that that was a transformative time in my life. So let's hear your story.
yeah, for sure. I it was 2017 when I finally took my yoga teacher training, but I had been contemplating it. Things had been like coming to me, and I finally just kind of answered that call. I guess it was 2016, and I graduated in 2017. And yeah, it completely changed the course of my life, obviously. But before that, I was just kind of struggling. Like I went to university, I graduated, and nothing was clicking. I couldn't do the sit down thing. I couldn't do the desk thing. So I worked in restaurants. It was like, this was better, but it's also not like, at least I'm moving, but it's not it. Right. So then getting into movement and spirituality really opened up so many doors. And then from there, I did my Pilates and reformer training over the pandemic as well. So just kind of adding into those, not just the spirituality movement aspect, but also more functional ways of moving as well. So that's my story, and I'm never gonna look back now. This is
Mhm.
it. It feels so right finally, and it's amazing.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I've had many, many, many lifetimes in my 31 years, but I was working full time as a copywriter and working in a marketing agency. And that's what I was doing. And writing is still one of my passions, still love it. But again, it was that 9 to 5 under fluorescent lights with carpet and a cubicle. And that's just not me.
No theta brain.
No theta brainwaves at all. And it wasn't connecting with my passions. And I'm definitely one of those people that needs beautiful spaces and greenery and light and like-minded people around to feel my most creative. And that was a turning point. I've always been a mover. I grew up a dancer. Movement has always been a part of my day to day, has always been into fitness and yoga. But in 2018, when I was in this desk job, we'll call it, I sort of like, it was like someone asked me almost to come into this space. So another beautiful shout out to Jill, who I always call Jill Munn from L Fitness, at that time now Fit Stop. I always call her my fitness fairy godmother because she was looking for a boxing coach for L Fitness. And I messaged her out of the blue being like, I don't actually have any of my training yet, but this is something I feel really called to do. So she said, you get that training, the job is yours. And so I did. And then I went through my personal training certification, and that was 2018. And then at the end of 2018, my partner and I packed up and we moved to Bali. And that's where we stayed until the pandemic. One of the probably the best choices I've ever made in my life. Definitely a huge, huge, huge growth period. I was writing full time and teaching English online. And then I was feeling called to do my yoga teacher training. I was falling in love with yoga. Whereas before, when I was in Toronto, yoga was a thing I know I needed to do because I was so heavily active. And I was very mindful of the fact that, yes, my body needs these certain things, but I was that person, very type A, very urban, looking at that clock and like counting down the minutes. But when I moved away and I was able to be immersed in the spirituality of yoga and like the origin and the Sanskrit and all of the beautiful practices that the Balinese people uphold, being a Hindu community, that really, really changed my whole approach to yoga. It no longer became anything about fitness whatsoever. It was not exercise to me. This was a mindfulness practice. And that was something that was like very much missing from my life. I had fitness that was taken care of. And that is not my approach to yoga at all currently either. To me, and following my training where I was able to do this beautiful, immersive 1 month program where we were every single day, like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the yoga shalas, in first of all in Ubud in Bali, and then we went back into Canggu. And I had a beautiful teacher, and she was able to provide us with these wonderful spiritual practices. She also teaches a lot about like the origin stories and those Hindu stories. So that's very much immersed into my yoga teacher training. And very almost like I would separate it, say it was more Eastern than it is Western practices, which I'm so thankful for. So when I took that course in 2020 February, it was magical and life-changing. And I knew that if I was going to be going home, which wasn't the plan at that point, but if I was going to be going home, this was the kind of yoga that I wanted to bring with me. And it wasn't going to be yoga for fitness. It wasn't going to be heart palpitating vinyasa. It was going to be mindful, meaningful, spiritual hatha practice. And so that's what I've hopefully been able to bring the stories of the gods and all that good stuff into practices over here, and like teach the other people that love yoga and love the practices the origins of it, right? We so often just like leave those and we move through the movements, we move through the practices, and yes, we breathe, and yes, we connect. But I feel like you can get a deeper and more meaningful practice when you actually know why and like where it's coming from, so we can appreciate and instead of appropriate this beautiful practice is when we actually get deep with it. We know where it comes from. So that's what Bali did for me, and that's what I hope to have brought home with me.
Thank you for sharing those stories. Oh, it sounds I want to say, yeah, it sounds perfect. But I want to hear any challenges that came up or big turning points or like the times when it got tough, times when you wanted to quit and like what inspired you to keep moving. So let's talk about like a challenge each and how you got through it.
Yeah.
Uh, well, Bronwyn is the fire in my chart that I don't have. So she might have a tendency to kind of push us into things before I might think that we're ready to do it. But we are. She just is the fire that gets us to go. And at times that's felt like, oh, can we do this? Can we pull this off? Opening up a studio in November, you know, in a physical space
In a pandemic.
in the middle of a pandemic and doing we did a holiday market. We were doing a full moon circles. Um, we
We've
did a
never
lot,
done this before.
and we've never done. So it was a lot, but honestly, it made us so strong, and I just am so grateful for her for pushing us before I would have thought that either we were ready or that we could do it. And that's kind of how things go. We just like, we're doing this. We have the idea. Okay, let's do it. And that is, we really do balance each other out in that beautiful way. Brahman being an Aries and myself a Libra. We really do have that yin and yang energy to us. So sometimes I'm like, okay, let's slow it down. And she goes, no, we got to go, and we go back and forth and we find this balance. That being said, that's just kind of an introductory to it. Everything has been everything has been a lot. Everything has been challenging, but at the same time, we're finding this ease and flow throughout everything, and just kind of laughing our way through as we figure it out. Anything in particular?
I was gonna say,
One
just
do you
like,
want to pick?
if anyone knows Toronto real estate, it is not cheap. So that was one big thing for Kayla and I, was like, we really thought that we needed this physical space and that it had to be ours. And we wanted to outfit it the exact ways we wanted to. And we didn't have capital. We don't have angel investors. It's just Kaylin and I bootstrapping this. So we found a space. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Did it come with a slew of complications and lockdowns? Yes. But we persevered. It didn't hold us back. We did all the things we want to do. Kayla mentioned we did this holiday market. It was so cool, created such community. We had makers and beautiful people from across the city come and share their gifts and their talents with us. And then lockdown happened and we had to, go back to being virtual, which is never fun, especially when you come out of it. We then reopened again. And we've had this sort of like, we always say it's like this conflict we've had with keys. We've never been giving a key to our own space, which is about to change, which is a big thing for me and Kaylin. No one would give us an actual key to our own location because we shared a space. We've wonderfully been able to give the opportunity to have the Lululemon space for a while, which was wonderful, perfect for us, right in our neighborhood. But yeah, one thing after the other. It is complicated when you're doing this with, there's no handbook for it, right? Like, there's no one's like, here, how to open your own yoga studio. There you go. It's not there. It would be great if it was.
I'm glad it's not,
Yeah.
because it ended up becoming something that we never thought was possible. We're so much more than a yoga studio or movement studio now, and it's because of those challenges and adversities that we've come to this place, and now we're this community versus just that studio that we would have been, struggling so hard to keep just thriving. So I'm really glad that we we took the path that we did.
Yeah. We've definitely come and gone through all. There's been lots of tears. There's been lots of wanting to not. But then Kayla and I always come back to it. Like, we always have these hurdles, and we truly do, like, take energy, but the energy that you put out there, it comes back to you. And we very much trust in the universe. And we've been given such amazing gifts from the universe that has taken us from what was a big challenge, which had both of us in tears and wanting to quit, to then the universe being like, here you go. And we're like, thank you. So many times, like countless times. There's been one that was most recently, which was wild. And we'll get to that one, I'm sure, about our retreat. But we really just trust in it. And then Kayla and I sit there and we're like, as hard as it was, I'm like, there's literally nothing else I would rather do. And we sit there and we have to be like, we're so lucky that we don't have to go and sit at a desk, and you and I can create the exact space that like we would feel safe and held for. And then we have these amazing, beautiful people that come to us, and that their lives are changing and they're making friends and they're feeling held and they're able to express themselves freely. And like we did that. So when we take a step back and we're like, yes, it's hard. Yes, there's tears. Yes, there's drama and trauma, but we did that. And for that, like, we are so proud of ourselves. So that's why we do it. That's why we keep going. And that's why we're not going to stop.
Oh, amazing. And just for the sake, because the podcast is called Move with Love, what does Move with Love mean to you?
We were just talking about how moving with love versus fear. And I said, it's not because it's not scary, but the love that we have for this idea and this concept of not just approachable spirituality, not just feel good and inclusive movement, but this community and connection, like all of these things coming together. We love it so much that it keeps us going, in even though it's so scary, and it can try to derail us at times, but it doesn't. And I mean, moving with love physically in our bodies is something that we bring to every movement class that we do. We hire instructors with the same intention and value system, that we aren't here to help to guide you through a movement that's going to push you past your limits, but we would like you to feel something. We want you to feel good, but we also want you to find some challenge in and find your edges, and find this beautiful balance of both. And so that's kind of the physical aspect of moving with love that we approach.
Yes. And what is the big picture? What is the big purpose of Theta?
I think Theta's purpose is community. I think that we know that our people are out there, and as adults, that can be really challenging and daunting and not easy to make friends. What we've started to notice is that we have gotten a lot of people to join our community that are maybe new to the country or new to the city. And they found us and they felt held and they felt community so much that they just stayed. And that's really what we want, is that we just want people to come and feel that this space is inclusive, regardless of who you are, where you are on your wellness journey, that you're held here. There's space for you. There never wouldn't be. And go from there. Like, I think we're just really, truly trying to create this community vibe. And yes, there's movement, and we move and we breathe together and we sweat together. We're in vulnerable states together, but that's why we're all so close, and that's why we're all so bonded. Yeah, it's community. That's what it is through and through. We always say, yeah, Theta movement isn't necessarily like bodily movement. It is a movement. It is a movement of community. It is a movement of like trusting your fellow person, trusting yourself, bringing in movement that feels good in your body. And we're there to be your guides, and we're there to help you find how you like to move yours. And it doesn't have to be the way it's supposed to be. You're not going to match the way we look too when it comes to movement. It's all what feels good in your body in that present moment, and honoring yourself there, because you do know yourself best. And if we're there to hold space for you to challenge yourself, and you leave feeling like 1% better, then we've done our jobs.
I'm feeling more than 1% better just chatting with you ladies. You do have this magical power, this aura, and I love the Libra and Aries dynamic.
Good
And
one.
I'm like, wow, like, well, we are in Libra season, the sun's in Libra, but the moon's gonna be in Aries. But like, oh, what a beautiful dance with that air and that fire that you both have. Tell me, what are you most excited about right now?
We're super excited about our first ever retreat that Bronwyn made us do in a
Okay.
short amount of time. But we're putting together our first ever retreat this month. And wow, we are super excited. And it's actually one of those things that it could be really scary, but it's actually flowing really nicely. And I'm enjoying the process of every aspect of planning it. So yeah, I'd like to talk about
A retreat.
the retreat a little bit.
Yeah, the retreat happening October 13th to 16th. We will be going 2 hours from the city. We're heading northeast to Buckhorn, Ontario. And the property that we are going to is called the Green Nest Lodge. And it is situated on Sandy Lake, which is also referred to as Lake of Spirits. It is a very, very spiritual area, very, very sacred indigenous area. And we are so thankful and so grateful to be able to host our retreat in this space. And yes, so we called it Theta Living. So essentially what our retreat is to hopefully be tapping into those theta brainwaves for a majority of the weekend. But we're taking all of the beautiful things that Theta has done in this past year that we have been a business and bring them all together into one weekend. So Theta, in addition to movement classes, we host monthly circles. We host a full moon circle. We host a new moon circle. We also have introduced a microdose and movement event where we tap into plant medicines to fuel our movement practices. We also have had paint nights, which we call cards and crafts, where we have collaborated with our lovely tarot reader, Bailey, who is now a part of the Theta family. And she was doing tarot readings while the rest of us painted. So all of these wonderful things that we've done in the past year, we're bringing all to the weekend in Buckhorn. And we're going to be doing circles. We're going to be doing movement on the dock and meditations by the water. And we're going to go on foraging walks and do all this beautiful community, all these things together. And we'll have lovely food. We got vegan, gluten-free, nourishing meals that we're going to be all having al fresco and as a community all together. And yeah, it's going to be really lovely. And everyone's welcome to join us up there. Still got spots available. So if you're feeling called, that's where we'll be. And essentially, it's just a place where people can escape the city, take some time for yourself, take some time in nature, breathe, connect with others, find your people, and really just, sit in stillness, sit in movement. And we'll be
Live
there
the Theta life.
to live that Theta life. Yeah.
That truly sounds nourishing for the spirit, for the body, for the mind on all levels. So thank you for sharing that and extend the invitation to the listeners and the viewers. Where can the listeners and viewers find you?
We're on Instagram at theta.mbmt, and you can check out our schedule, our events that are coming up on our website, thetambmt.com. Where else are we?
We're everywhere. Facebook, Instagram. We even have a TikTok. Do we post there much? No. But that's because we're millennials.
I hear ya. Oh, wow. Well, thank you to Kaylin and Bronwyn for taking time to share your magic and your message of where this Theta movement is headed. I'm so excited to witness this unfolding of this magical duo. So until next time, let's share the message, the mindset, the lifestyle. Let's move with love together. Namaste.
Thanks so much, April.